We really like that video tonight, that's all. It's a nice video. All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Ashley, and I am powerless over drugs and alcohol, and tonight I am grateful to choose recovery. Hey everybody, so I have been given the greatest job ever tonight, which is to go through the questions and pick the hardest ones I can find and then ask them to my friends in front of everybody. So I'm very, very excited to be able to do this tonight, and my friends who are now my victims for the night are going to introduce themselves. And how about we get a area of recovery and sobriety date as well?
My name is, there, you take.
She did that.
Arlene.
My name is Rochelle. It's her fault. That's okay, my microphone's down there, so if anybody wants to hand us that one, then that may be my fault that left that one down there. You can give it to one of them. There we go.
Thanks.
I'm Rochelle, and I am powerless over drugs and alcohol and codependency.
Hi, Rochelle.
My name is Kip. I'm a child of God who was powerless over alcohol and drugs. And my sobriety date is September 20th, 2013.
Hi, Kip.
I'm an addict and alcoholic. My name is John. Today I choose recovery, and my sobriety date is March 27th of 2021.
Hi, John.
And I'm going to get you to say hello to me all night long, right? This is the whole time. Arlene, powerless over alcohol, November 27th, 1985.
Hi, Arlene.
Hi, Arlene.
All right, so if you've never been here with us for an Askit Basket before, basically we just want to, usually we'll do a lesson or a testimony, and we're just kind of up here talking at you guys. So we want to give you guys an opportunity to ask us any questions that you may have. And so we jokingly say that this is a panel of experts, but I do life with most of these people, and I can assure you that they're not experts at all. Right. I mean, they're great people, but experts, I don't know, you know? No, but seriously, though, we're going to do our...
Remind me to unfriend her.
So we're going to do the best we can tonight to answer the questions, and just keep in mind that as we answer these questions, we're just doing it out of our own experience. We have not found the secret to recovery or anything like that. Nobody certified us as experts or anything along those lines. We just wanted to do the best we could to answer some questions that you may have. We thought maybe there might be some questions floating around after everything that's happened in the last couple weeks for anybody that's new, or just any questions at all. So we open it up to all questions tonight. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. And I guess, Kip?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. What is recovery to you?
Life. You know, simply, it's a way of life to me. It gave me my life back. It restored and redeemed my marriage, relationships with family and friends. It's given me new friends. I mean, it's just everything to me.
Thanks, Kip. All right, let's see, Rochelle. If I relapse and I'm scared to tell my sponsor, what should I do?
Well, she asked me that because I can share it from my experience. And she knew that because I had a lot of fear and shame over the idea that I had picked up a drink. And I thought that I was just going to will my way through forgetting about it. That I could just put it behind me, and as long as I went to a meeting every single day for the rest of my life, it would just go away. And it didn't. It didn't. I got to a place where I was sitting here, and I'm still showing up at meetings, and I'm meeting with my sponsor, and I'm working the steps, and I'm like not getting better. And I couldn't figure out what this wall was that I was hitting. And come to find out, it was that little white secret that was actually a big thing for me. And it was hindering my walk. And there was going to come a time that I knew that I was going to pick up again. Because, like, if I got to get clean and come out, and, you know, I might as well just pick up again. And so I can at least go out with a bang, right? Those thoughts started to come. And when those thoughts started to come, when I thought, like, you know, if I've got to, you know, tell everyone and pick up a white chip, then I might as well, you know, go all out. And that was a reality. And so I came clean with my sponsor, and she said, so what? What's the big deal? Let's change your sobriety date. It was more of a big deal in me, and it was that secret. And so I assure you that if you're here right now and you're struggling with that, that struggle is yours. And it's gonna, and my experience was I continue to struggle with it, but just come out to your sponsor. Like, it's a sobriety date. Changing a sobriety date is a lot easier than coming back from that place that we once were in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Rochelle. we can't really work an honest program if we're not being honest about the most fundamental part of the program, which is sobriety. Absolutely. And I like the way that we're doing this tonight because they didn't know where I was going to start. Nobody really knows where I'm going. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. So everybody's equally anxious right now. So John, when do you know it's a good time to transition from a halfway house to normal living?
That's a good question.
Well, I would say if you asked me that for a one-on-one thing, I would say, do you have a sponsor, a home group? Are you actively working your 12 steps? Have you gone through your 12 steps? And then pray about it first and talk to your sponsor about it and come to a conclusion with the two of you. I would not ask 18 people to see if I get the answer I want.
Thank you, John. Good answer. Absolutely.
How did you know I tried that one?
Yes. All right, so. No, you're okay. Okay. Arlene, how do we stay positive after everything we've been through?
How do we stay positive through everything we've been through? Well, I'm not really sure that staying positive is really the goal. I would say staying sober is probably the goal. And sometimes we're not in a positive frame of mind. When hard things happen, it's appropriate to have grief and to have sadness and to have pain. And a lot of times I think when we're earlier in recovery particularly, those things are very, very uncomfortable. And we try to just like, okay, how are we going to find, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get out of this? But I think part of the maturity of recovery is learning that there's good and bad and there's happy and sad. And being able to stay clean and sober through all of those transitions is really the thing. It's like kind of what John was talking about. It's like, are you going to God? Are you praying in the morning to stay sober and at night thanking Him for your sobriety and for the people in your life and the things that you have? In between, are you going to a meeting? Are you helping somebody else? Because a lot of times getting out of ourselves means helping somebody else. Are you working your steps? Are you talking to people, your sponsor, and people who can, help you along the road of recovery? I know I've spent a lot of time, in the years that I've been sober, in periods of time where I wasn't positive, but I was sober, which meant that there was going to come a time that I was going to be able to be positive and sober. So the point is really just keep coming back and, stay around the people and the program to be able to hold on to God and the things that are going to get you to that next place because everything does pass. Guess what? If you're positive, that'll pass. If you're negative, that'll pass too. And this is what life is in recovery. It's a way of life.
Thank you, Arlene. Yes, great answer. So Rochelle, a couple questions about the first step, and I think we can answer these probably together. Why is it that I have to give up to a higher power, and how important is the first step?
Well, for me, the first step is so vital. Actually, I've started, really even in traditional recovery, reminding myself that I'm powerless over drugs and alcohol, and that's who I am because, for me, whenever I try to think that I have power over something, which may tend to happen kind of quite a bit, my life gets really out of control. And I cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created the problem. And a lot of the problems I have were created in the mind, just saying there. But it's so to continue for me to remind myself of how powerless I am, because if I don't recognize my powerlessness, I don't need Jesus. I don't need the higher power. If I've got the answer for everything, I mean, how many of you know the answer to something and then go somewhere and ask someone else the question? Like, or go, or go seek guidance for things we already know. And so that's kind of like step one for me. It's recognizing that I know that nothing good lives in me, that is in my sinful nature. I have the desire to do what is good. I want to do it all the time. Like, I want to make the right choices, but I'm not able to do that on my own. And because I recognize that, I have a desperate need for a relationship with Jesus who can do for me what I can't do for myself, because I am a complete mess apart from him. And so that's why I believe that it's so important to remember that step one on a regular basis. Whenever I find my life squirrely, it's because I'm trying to control something. And when I surrender to that powerlessness, then I seek God for the answer. And man, God restores me to sanity. He's the only one that can.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. So I want to take a minute to recognize that we did receive in the questions tonight, we did receive a lot of prayer requests. And we're not reading those out loud for obvious reasons, but we do want to let you know that we are going to look those over. We are going to pray for those. We started praying for those tonight as we were looking through them. And we're going to have a time at the end of this where you can get somebody to pray with you specifically for those things. And if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine too. Just know that we are praying for your prayer requests. So, John, what do I do if I just can't stay sober no matter how hard I try?
Well, that's my experience. So I'll tell you what I did. I was at a point in the month of the month of March, where of last year, not this past March, a year ago, and I couldn't stop. And I wanted to stop, and I couldn't stop. And what I did was I removed myself from the situation. I know geographical changes are not the answer, so I prayed and I asked for help. The first thing I have to do is recognize that there is a problem, and then ask for help. And I asked my friend Tom, and I went to a place that would see. I couldn't stop long enough to pass a drug test. So I couldn't go to a sober house, even though I didn't. That would still keep me. Anyway, Detox kept telling me to call back, and I didn't know if I would have the desire or the want to call back in another 24 hours. I knew right then and there that I needed to get out of this situation, and I needed help. So I called a place in Naples, and they said, "We'll take you dirty." And that's what I did. Am I answering the question, by the way? So I even forget what the question is. Okay, so I couldn't stay sober, that's what I did. And they took me dirty, and I went there, and I stayed there for 28 days, and then I transitioned from there into a men's sober house, which is where I'm still today. And I did that because I have a dear friend in recovery that's got many years of sobriety that I used with on the street, that had relapsed and then got sober again. And like I like to say, I followed his footsteps. But what I didn't realize, they weren't his footsteps. They were God's footsteps, because God was carrying him.
Thank you, John. And I know personally that is my story. I wanted to get sober with everything I had, and I couldn't seem to do it. I know that's Rochelle's story. And I mean, what we did is exactly what John talked about. We just kept coming back, and we kept trying until we did the right thing. I mean, and you're not ready until you're ready, unfortunately. So you come in, you hear what people tell you to do, and you're like, yeah, but I don't want to do that, right? And then you leave. And then you come back in, and people are like, do that, and you're like, yeah, but I don't want to do that. So you leave, right? And for me, what I found was, eventually the answer was all the things they had been telling me to do all along that I didn't want to do. I kept going out and trying to prove that God and the 12 steps weren't the answer. And guess what? God and the 12 steps were the answer. So it's a good place to start is, God and the 12 steps. Yeah. So Kip, how do the steps heal us from our past?
I don't know, but you have to do them. It's in doing them that you get healed. Yeah, it's kind of like the fifth step, I wasn't Catholic, so I didn't feel a need for confession. But I know that I didn't do that and didn't stay sober the first time around. So I had to take the steps. And I love the biblical comparison of the fifth step. It says, confess your sins one to another and pray about them to be healed. It's in doing these steps that the healing part comes. It's breaking down all those blocks I had put on my heart, hurts and resentments and fears and all that stuff. By walking through those steps, it breaks those down and allows God to come in and do that transformative work within.
So since you were talking about the fifth step, why do I have to do a fifth step? Why do I have to give that to somebody if God already knows what I've done?
It's that part of the James. I wrote that one.
There you go. See, I know them.
Yeah, it's because it was so poignant to me. I did not feel the need for confession, but it's in doing that it tells us in literature that it's humbling. I needed much more humility, and it tells us that if we don't take this vital step, we may drink again. And at that point in my, I knew that I had never done steps 4 and 5 and the further steps, and I didn't stay sober, and I had the desire to stay sober. So I was like, I can't pick and choose what steps I'm going to do. I need to do all of them. And I found that in doing that is where that healing comes.
And the word vital means necessary for life.
Necessary for life, absolutely. Arlene. He doesn't get it? Okay. So, Arlene, how should I get started on the fourth step?
How should I get started on the fourth step? Well, by the time you get to the fourth step, you ought to have a sponsor. You ought to have asked somebody to guide you through these steps. And it's been my experience, and I think the experience of just about everybody I know in the program, that they're led through the steps the way their sponsor was led through the steps. And so if you want to get started on your fourth step, I think the simple answer is get a sponsor and go through steps 1 and then 2 and then 3. And by that time, your sponsor will be able to tell you how to proceed through the fourth step. And I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. Don't worry yourself about it before then, because you're not ready for it if you don't have a sponsor. You can't work these steps by yourself. I think Rochelle said it earlier, the same mind that was sick can't heal itself. So we need to step out. So whoever wrote that question, I really encourage you tonight, find a sponsor, somebody who's been through the steps, who can lead you through the steps, and you will be on that path then. It will feel a lot better.
Thank you, Arlene. We have a question here that's for somebody not on our panel. Anthony, why is your name tag on wrong? No answer? Okay, he's fine. Another one for somebody on our panel, is John Nichols single?
He is single.
I know exactly who asked that question, and she's a married woman.
It wasn't me. That's all I can say.
Well, I wasn't quite prepared on how to handle scandal up here.
But is Manzi single? That's the question. That's what people really want to know.
We were looking
Wait a minute. Speaking of being single, there's very few days left before this woman isn't single.
So the question is Ashley single?
She's looking at her fiance, right?
Yeah, she's looking at him.
As she's watching the time.
As her face gets redder and redder.
Yep, they do this to me on purpose,
That's right,
They really
because you
do. These
asked
are my
us all
friends.
these questions. What did you think?
It's my own fault. I set myself up for these things.
You did.
Okay. John?
Yes.
When can I sponsor someone?
What's that?
When can I sponsor someone?
What?
When can we sponsor someone?
Well, that's a great question. The question was, when can I sponsor someone? My sponsor tells me after we've gone through the steps, all 12 steps, I'm actively working the program of recovery. I'm trusting God, I've cleaned house, and I continue to clean house, and I'm helping others. I'm ready to start sponsoring another man.
Yeah, very simple, right to the point. So I've lost track of if they've answered an even amount of questions at this point, so it's fine. But I do have one more question. But before we have this final question, we just wanted to, I just wanted to let you know that we did not get to all the questions tonight. We have some really, really amazing questions tonight. Made it, much harder for our panel tonight. So I'm so grateful for them coming up here. So before we ask this last question, can we give the panel a hand? And no, she's not ready to run. She's not leaving. I was done talking about me for a while, and I was just trying to make you guys focus on something else. So, okay, anyways, Arlene, I'm still not sure about trusting Jesus. Can I still recover here at Choose Recovery?
Absolutely. 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 My story is that I was, I had about 8 years sober before I realized that, my higher power was Jesus. I mean, up until then, they said, find a power of my own understanding, and I did. And here's the thing that I know, that God is always seeking us. God is always wanting us to get closer to Him, and He will use any means possible to be able to get you closer to Him so that you don't have to die in your addictions, afflictions, and compulsive behaviors, and so that you can grow in your grace. The entire purpose of recovery, whether it be Choose Recovery or traditional recovery, is to get closer and get a relationship with God who can do for you what you can't do for yourself, and God is always seeking you. And so if you're here and you're enjoying your time here and you're hearing something that is speaking to your soul, just trust that God is working on you. And if you continue to be praying, talking to your sponsor, working the steps, doing service work, and going to meetings, that God will come alive in your life. My story is that the 11th step came true. I sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And over a period of time, I had a spiritual awakening, which included me understanding that my higher power was Jesus. And of course, that started the path that made me your pastor today. And so, yes, you can come to Choose Recovery. Please come to Choose Recovery. Come and recover at the pace that God wants you to recover. And whoever you are, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Choose Recovery.
Yes. Thank you, panel.
Okay, now we can leave.
Now you can go. Thank you. All right, let's give the panel one more round of applause. Yes. John, will you take that for me? Will you take that for me? So now is going to be the time where we're going to have, the band is making their way back up, and we're going to have one more song. And again, if your questions did not get answered, we're going to stick around a little while after this large group to answer any questions that you may have. We tried to stay away a little bit from the personal questions because we want you to get with somebody, specifically a sponsor or somebody of that nature, to ask those personal questions. We just can't answer those in a group setting. However, there was one more question that I wanted to address. And it's kind of the perfect way to end of the night. It was, how do I get a personal relationship with God? And so we're going to open up the altar, and we're going to have a song. And during that altar call, you are more than welcome to come up here and pray at the altar, lift a hand, and somebody will pray with you. But for me, my experience with how to get a personal relationship with God, the way I like to look at it is if I have a God bucket. And when I first get sober, my God bucket is empty. I don't have a lot of experiences in this bucket. But every time while I'm sober, that God comes through and He does something for me that I didn't think was possible, and I didn't see a way, and I didn't know how it was going to happen, I take that experience and I put it in the God bucket, right? And then the next time God comes through and He makes a way, or I see somebody else in the rooms that I never thought could get sober, and they get sober, I take that experience and I put it in my God bucket. And so this personal relationship with God, this takes time. This is something that has to grow. You need more experience. And so we don't just come in here and suddenly have this amazing personal relationship with God. This is something that takes time, and it takes energy put into it. And the best way to do that is just to come up to the altar or stay in your seat anywhere you want. And like any other personal relationship, all you have to do is just talk. God is our friend, and He wants to hear from you. So as we open up this altar, if you need prayer, just lift a hand and we'll come pray with you.